Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to NCLEX session. We are now on part 4. I have a combination of different questions for you. Some are related to you as a professional in the actual hospital in terms not of patient care, but of your own safety. And then we have some related to patient care as well. I wanted to switch it up a little bit and give you kind of like an idea of all the things you would be involved in, different things that are affecting your life as a nurse working in a facility. And it's more going on than just patient care. Some of it's just your own safety in your environment. You'd be surprised how many times nurses are in harm's way, whether they're getting beaten up by a confused patient who obviously you can't sue or anything because the person is confused, or other issues, whether it's another healthcare professional making the environment unsafe, or even a manager that's kind of out of line and making you feel uncomfortable and unsafe while you're doing your work that day. So unfortunately, that's not stuff that most professors and people in your college is going to want to talk about, but I keep it real because I'm in it too. I work also, and I want you to know the real deal when it comes to nursing. This is just about patient care. It's a lot more going on behind the scenes and in front of the scenes and in between the scenes than just patient care. So I kind of added a couple of other questions that you need to know the answers to anyway. All right. And these are some things that they would probably go over with you doing your annual competencies when you are at a facility, because legally they have to make sure you know about things like OSHA and HIPAA and different rules that govern how a facility is run. In addition to, of course, the safety of patients and your care and your treatment of the patient. But it's also important to know about your treatment of each other and other medical professionals, whether it's other nurses, other doctors, respiratory therapists, et cetera. Management, how they treat you, how you treat them. It's a lot more that goes into the scene than just patient care. So that's the reality. And, we're not living in a dream world, so you need to know what's really going on. Okay, so question number 1. What are the standards for patient care? Is it A, behavior, communication, privacy, respect, and dignity? Is it B, behavior, communication, and respect? Is it C, behavior, communication, and trust? So give that a look at, give it some thought, think of yourself as the patient, how you want to be treated, and that might actually help you with the answer to this question. Okay, so if you chose answer A, which is behavior, communication, privacy, respect, and dignity, yes, these standards are essential in healthcare setting to ensure the patients receive high quality and compassionate care. Okay, let's go on to question number 2. If there is a dangerous situation at work, the employee is encouraged to file a complaint with what organization or person? Do we have A, OSHA, B, HIPAA, C, the FBI, or D, the governor? Take a minute, think about it. Okay, guys, so if you chose OSHA, that is the correct answer. So OSHA is a federal agency in the United States that is responsible for ensuring safe and healthy working conditions for employees. That's something you're going to need to know throughout your entire career. And it's something the hospital is going to make sure that you know, because they have to include that in their annual competencies to remind you what OSHA is and what their function is as it pertains to you. So, for example, if there's a dangerous situation at work, the employee is encouraged to file an actual complaint, and you can do that online, with the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, also known as OSHA, OSHA. Okay, so what does OSHA do? Okay, they investigate workplace safety concerns, they conduct inspections, and they enforce regulations to protect workers from hazards and unsafe practices. Okay, so employees have the right to file a complaint with OSHA if they believe that their workforce is not workforce, guys, if their workplace is not following appropriate safety protocols, or if they feel they are in danger due to unsafe conditions. Okay, a patient presents with pulmonary edema. They're tachypnic, they have tachycardia, hypertension, fever, and a cough with really frothy, sanguinous sputum. When I say sanguinous, I mean bloody. Okay, so what treatments are often commonly ordered initially with this kind of clinical presentation? So for A, we have oxygen, morphine, and a calcium channel blocker. B, we have oxygen and a thiazide diuretic, which is just, to help that patient get rid of fluid. And C, we have oxygen, a nitroglycerin, loop diuretic, and morphine. Okay? And last, for D, we have an order for oxygen, some thiazide diuretics, some angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. And I know you're like, why are you using these big words? Because you're going to need to know these big words. Even though these big words are really just generic names for brand names. But as a nurse, you need to know the generics as well as the brand, as well as the classification of the meds. So if you chose C, for this type of patient, we're giving them oxygen, nitroglycerin, a loop diuretic, and morphine. Okay? Again, the patient's clinical presentation of pulmonary edema with symptoms like cardiogenic shock, hypertension, fever, a frothy, sanguinous, bloody sputum indicates a severe condition that requires immediate and very aggressive treatment. Okay, so let me see if I can explain this to you a little bit better, all right? So the most appropriate initial treatment for this patient, because they're presenting you, if you haven't guessed it yet, with pulmonary edema, okay? And to address that, we mainly want to focus on oxygenating the patient and reducing that fluid overload. Okay, so the combination of oxygen, the nitroglycerin, which nitroglycerin is a vasodilator that helps reduce cardiac workload. You have your loop diuretic. What does that do? It removes excess fluid from the body. So you're going to have the patient just urinating away after you give them this. And then morphine, you want to give the patient to relieve pain. And it also reduces anxiety. And check it out. Morphine also helps improve breathing. Okay? So this whole combination is commonly used to manage acute pulmonary edema in a hospital setting. Okay. This one is a fairly easy one in there. Kind of lighten up the load, because I know that last one was a little tricky, required a lot of critical thinking there. This one is a lot easier. Okay. Which heart sound indicates atrial gallop? Is it A, S1, B, S2, C, S3, or D, S4? Okay, take your time and listen for a little bit. Think about it. Think about how you're hearing that heartbeat when you are listening to that heart with your stethoscope, especially during your clinical rotations when you were still a student. And if you're a professional nurse listening and you haven't heard S4 yet on the patients, think about the question for a minute. And then after I explained the answer and stuff, I also added an audio track so you can hear S4 if you have never been privy to hear that. Okay, so if you chose that the atrial gallop is heard in S4, you are correct, okay? So S4 is an extra heart sound that occurs just before the first heart sound, S1, and it is often referred to as an atrial gallop or atrial kick. S4 is caused by the forceful contraction of the atria, trying to push blood into a stiff or hypertrophic ventricle during that late diastolic phase of the cardiac cycle. Okay, so hopefully that may bring back some memories on what you learned in school. Let's take a listen together now with seeing how S4 actually sounds. We'll be using this keyboard to kind of give you an idea of S1, S2, which you typically hear, and then what that S4 sounds like, the S4 we're discussing. Okay, so for example, this would be the S1, S2. That's what you're hearing when you're listening to the person's heart. That. Now, what if they have an S4? The S4 is going to be the sound you hear before that S1, S2. So this is what it'll sound like if it's an S4 involved. Hear that first sound come in before the... So again, S4 is going to be the first sound you hear right now. So I hope that gives you a better idea of what we're discussing. See, the keyboard does come in handy, even for teaching. Okay, guys, with this last question, this is more in terms of recognizing wounds, because you're going to be seeing a lot of wounds in your field, whether you're doing home care, whether you're in the hospital, whether you're at a nursing home, which is long-term care facility, no matter what, whether you're working for an ambulance company and you're the nurse that's traveling with the crew, you're going to see wounds, okay? So the question is, what are commonly observed venous ulcers? The key is venous ulcers. They look different than other wounds, okay? So is it A, deep and circular? B, superficial and irregular shaped? C, necrotic? Or D, appears only on the toes? Okay, if you chose B, superficial and irregular shaped, you are correct. Venous ulcers are commonly observed as superficial and irregular shaped wounds. And when I say irregular, I mean, like, instead of a perfect circle, instead of the edges being a perfect circle, picture it going in and out, all different kind of curves and stuff. Not a perfect little uniform circle or a perfect little uniform square, but an irregularly shaped wound, okay? They typically occur on the lower legs, near the ankles or calves, okay, and are often the result of a chronic venous insufficiency. Now, venous insufficiency is a condition in which the veins in the legs have difficulty returning blood to the heart, leading to pooling of blood and increased pressure in the lower extremities. Now, over time, this can cause skin breakdown and the development, unfortunately, of venous ulcers. I'm going to also show you a picture of that on the next slide. Okay, guys, so here's a picture of a venous ulcer, and this one is located around the ankle. Remember I said usually we'll see it in the lower legs, especially the ankle area. So here is a good example of one. You see the circle is not completely perfect, and the ulcer is starting to tunnel in, but it was caused because of that poor circulation in that area. Okay. So that really ends it today for questions. If you have more questions or you want to go into more detail about something I've talked about, or if you have something you have a question about that has nothing to do with what I talked about today, still feel free to drop me an email. You see I have the email there. SkillSnacks YT. You can think of it as SkillSnacks YouTube. So SkillSnacksYT@gmail.com. And leave me what your question is, and I will respond promptly. Usually I respond within 24 to 48 hours at the absolute latest, because I'm still working and doing other things as well. A lot of times I'm in the hospital, so I may not see it when I'm in the hospital, but I do check my emails throughout the day. Yeah. So anything like that, or questions that has nothing to do with patient care. Let's say it's a question about what avenue you think you should go to. Should I do PCU? Should I do ICU? What is the IMC like? What is the ER like? What is home care like? What is occupational health like? Because I've done all of those roles. So I would be a great person to talk to about what you're going to see if you should enter that role. What are the pros and the cons, etc., etc. And maybe one day I'll do a video about that as well. But for now, if you have any questions, feel free. Go ahead and like and subscribe. And please share with your friends, share with people who just want to learn about venous ulcers or ways we treat patients in the hospital or anything we've talked about in this video or the other videos that I have made. Feel free. And please, spread the word. And let's get education out there to all that is interested in their health and making sure they're also being treated well as patients in the hospital. So it was great spending time with you guys, and I will talk to you soon on our next NCLEX session. Take care and have an awesome day. Bye-bye.